Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you one honest question. No pressure, no judgment. When you try to speak English, what really happens inside your mind? Do you first think in your native language, then slowly translate the sentence into English, and by the time the words are ready, the moment is already gone? The conversation has moved on. The person is waiting. And you feel stuck, silent, or embarrassed. You are not alone. Millions of English learners face this same problem every single day. And here is the painful truth. The problem is not your vocabulary. It is not your grammar. It is not even your intelligence. The real problem is translation. Now let me tell you something that may surprise you. Fluent English speakers do not translate at all. Not even a little. When they want to say something, the English words appear automatically, just like thoughts appear in your mind in your native language. They do not stop. They do not convert. They do not panic. So here is the big question: why don't they translate? And the even bigger question: can you learn this skill too, even if you are a beginner? The answer is yes. 100% yes. But first, you need to understand something very important. Thinking in English is not a talent you are born with. It is not only for people who live abroad. It is not only for smart students or people with perfect accents. Thinking in English is a trained habit. And like any habit, it can be built, slowly, naturally, and safely. In this video, I am not going to motivate you with empty words. I am not going to confuse you with complex rules. I am not going to tell you to memorize thousands of words or study grammar for years. Instead, I will show you a simple, real, step-by-step method that trains your brain to stop translating and start thinking directly in English. You will learn why your brain resists English. You will learn how to talk to yourself in English without fear. You will learn how to think in short, easy English sentences, starting today. So stay with me till the end. Because once you understand why fluent speakers don't translate, you will realize something powerful. You don't need more English, you need a new way of using it. And that change begins right now. Chapter 1: WHY your brain translates, and WHY it's not your fault. Before you learn to think in English, you need to understand one very important truth. Your brain translates because it has been trained to do so, and it is not your fault. Many learners feel frustrated when they pause, hesitate, or translate every word in their mind. You might think, maybe I am not smart enough, or maybe English is too hard for me. But this is completely wrong. The problem is not your intelligence. The problem is habit, and habits can be changed. Let's start from the beginning. Your first language is connected to your emotions, memories, and daily life. From the moment you were born, you heard your family speak, you laughed with friends, you cried, you got excited, you argued. All these experiences created a strong link between your thoughts and your first language. Your brain learned it naturally, automatically, without effort. When you want to express happiness, anger, or surprise, the words come instantly. Your brain doesn't need to think, translate, or calculate. English, on the other hand, usually enters your life differently. Most people learn English in school. They learn grammar rules, vocabulary lists, and exercises. English becomes a subject to memorize, not a language to feel and experience. It is something you study, not something you live. That is why, when you try to speak, Your brain treats English as a problem to solve rather than a thought to express. Here is what happens. Your brain creates the idea first in your native language. Then it tries to translate that idea into English. And that is where problems appear. Translation is slow. It creates fear. It breaks confidence. Let's see a simple example. Someone asks you, "How are you?" Sounds easy, right? But inside your mind, your brain first converts the question into your first language. You think of your answer in your native language. Then you try to translate it back into English. Meanwhile, the other person is waiting. Suddenly your mind freezes. Your heart beats faster. You know the answer, but the words refuse to come. You panic. Or imagine ordering food at a restaurant. The waiter asks, "What would you like to order?" You know exactly what you want, maybe rice, tea, or chicken. But your brain says, "Wait, what is the English word for this? Should I say I want or I would like? Did I pronounce it correctly?" By the time you speak, the moment is gone. You feel embarrassed, nervous, and your confidence drops. Translation causes three main problems. It slows your speaking. Even if you know the words, the process of thinking in your native language and translating them adds unnecessary time. Conversations feel unnatural. It creates fear. Every sentence feels like a test. You worry about mistakes, about being judged, and about sounding foolish. It breaks confidence. Every hesitation makes you doubt yourself. You start thinking English is too difficult, or that maybe you are not good enough. But here's the truth: the problem is not your brain. The problem is habit. Your brain has created a habit loop. Step 1. Think in your native language. Step 2. Translate into English. Step 3. Speak slowly, hesitantly, or pause. Step 4. Repeat. Every time you repeat this loop, it becomes stronger. Your brain is just following the path it has been trained to follow. Now comes the most important point. Fluency is not about vocabulary. Fluency is about habits. You could know hundreds of English words, yet still feel slow and nervous if your brain keeps translating. Fluent speakers are not faster because they know more words. They are faster because their brains have developed the habit of thinking directly in English. And remember this, everyone starts this way. Every fluent speaker you admire was once slow. They paused. They searched for words. They hesitated. They made mistakes. But over time, they trained their brain to stop translating and start thinking in English naturally. The good news is that your brain can do the same. Habits can always be changed. Your brain is flexible. It can create new loops. It can learn to respond in English automatically, without translation. So, the first step is understanding the problem. Translation is not a sign of weakness or stupidity. It is a natural habit created by the way your brain learned languages. Recognizing this removes fear and guilt. You are not failing. You are simply at the beginning of a process that every successful English speaker has gone through. Now comes the curiosity moment. If translation is just a habit, how do we break this habit? How do we train our brains to stop translating and start thinking in English naturally and confidently? That is exactly what we will explore in the next chapter. Fire. Once you realize that the problem is habit, not intelligence, your mindset changes completely. You stop blaming yourself. You stop feeling guilty. And you open the door to real progress, a way to speak English that is natural, fast, and confident. Chapter 2: How Fluent People Think in English. The Hidden Truth. Let's start with a truth that might shock you. Fluent English speakers do not translate in their minds, not even a little. When they speak, their brains do not run a mental dictionary, flipping words from their first language into English. Instead, something far more natural happens, a process that you already have inside you, even if it feels lost right now. Fluent speakers think in pictures, feelings, and situations, not in isolated words. Their minds are alive with meaning before a single word leaves their mouth. They see a scene, feel an emotion, or imagine an action, and English simply flows from that. They don't stop to analyze grammar rules or check a translation. The language becomes an extension of thought, not a calculation. To understand the difference, let's compare two ways of thinking. The first is word-by-word thinking, which is what most beginners do. You see a thought in your native language, and your brain frantically searches for English words to fit it. Every sentence is a mini puzzle. Find the noun, find the verb, apply the grammar rule, hope it sounds right. This slows everything down, creates fear, and kills confidence. The second is situation-based thinking. Here, your mind is focused on the meaning, not the words. You feel what you want to say first. You imagine the scene. You experience the emotion. The English words appear naturally because they are tied to the meaning, not to a translation. Here's a simple example. Imagine you feel hungry. If you think in translation, you might go through this process. I feel hunger. How do I say hunger in English? I am hungry. It's slow and mechanical. But a fluent speaker doesn't think about the word hungry. They feel the hunger. They imagine their stomach rumbling. They see a plate of food in their mind. Then they naturally say, I am hungry, without any mental translation. The meaning drives the words, not the other way around. Grammar works the same way. Fluent people do not start with grammar rules. Grammar comes after meaning. Children who learn English naturally never think about verbs, tenses, or sentence structure first. They hear, understand, and mimic the meaning. Over time, the correct forms emerge automatically. English is a living language, not a math formula. It's about communication, connection, and expression, not about memorizing rules. Think about how children learn. A baby never translates. A child doesn't think, in my language, I want juice, translate to English, oh, it's I want juice. They simply experience the meaning, associate words with feelings or actions, and speak naturally. The process is organic, effortless, and emotion-driven. Here's the big realization. Your brain already knows how to think without translation, you just forgot. You learned your first language this way. You felt it, lived it, and absorbed it without thinking. English can work the same way. The ability is already inside you. You don't need special talent, intelligence, or a perfect memory. You just need the right method to reconnect your brain with meaning, not translation. This is why so many English learners feel stuck. They try to force a new language into the old habit of translation, instead of retraining their brain to think in situations, emotions, and meaning. Once you understand this, hope replaces fear. You can see a clear path forward. Learning English is not about memorizing rules, it's about rebuilding natural thinking habits. And the best part is, it is simple to start. You already know how to think without translation. You just need to practice it in English. You just need to shift your focus from words to meaning. You just need to let your brain do what it has done successfully for your first language for years. So here's the curiosity spike for you. If your brain already has this ability, the question is no longer, can I speak English fluently? The question is now, how do we retrain the brain to think in English naturally? That's exactly what we will explore in the next chapter. Once you realize that fluency is a habit your brain already knows, everything changes. You stop feeling powerless. You stop believing that English is complicated. You understand that speaking fluently is not a talent, it is a skill built on meaning, not translation. You already have the foundation. Your brain is capable. Your feelings and experiences are powerful. And the next step is learning the method to make your English flow just like your first language. Chapter 3: Daily Methods to Train Your Brain to Think in English. Now that you understand why your brain translates and how fluent speakers think in English, it's time to take action. The truth is simple. Thinking in English is a daily practice, not magic. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't require perfect grammar or huge vocabulary lists. What it does require is consistency, practice, and the right methods. In this chapter, I will show you practical ways to train your brain, step by step, so that English becomes natural and automatic. Method 1. Naming objects around you. The first exercise is simple but incredibly effective. Look around you. Your room, your kitchen, your office. Every object you see has an English word. Practice naming things silently in your mind as you interact with them. For example, you see a chair, this is a chair. You see a cup, this is a cup. You open a door, I am opening the door. By doing this, your brain begins to link objects and actions directly to English words, without translation. Over time, this creates a natural habit where English becomes your thinking language for everyday things. Method 2. Simple self-talk. The second method is self-talk. Speak to yourself in English about very basic things. It can be as simple as describing your day, asking yourself questions, or even making small observations. I am thirsty. I need water. It is sunny today. Start with short, clear sentences. Don't worry about grammar mistakes. The goal is action, not perfection. The more you practice talking to yourself, the more confident your brain becomes in forming English thoughts naturally. Method 3. Thinking in short phrases, not long sentences. Beginners often try to form long, complex sentences in their mind. This is overwhelming and slows down your speaking. Instead, think in short phrases, 2 to 5 words at first. For example, instead of thinking, I feel hungry, so I will make a sandwich in the kitchen. Think, I am hungry. Make sandwich. Short phrases are easier for your brain to process, and they allow English to flow naturally. Over time, your mind will automatically combine these phrases into longer sentences, just like native speakers do. Method 4. Describing actions while doing them. Another powerful method is to describe what you are doing in real time. This turns everyday activities into learning opportunities. While cooking, I am cutting onions. I am boiling water. While cleaning, I am opening the window. I am sweeping the floor. While walking, I see a tree. I hear birds. Describing actions like this trains your brain to think in English as you live your life, not only when you are studying or sitting quietly. Why short sentences matter? Short sentences are not just easier, they help your brain focus on meaning rather than grammar. This is how children learn their first language. They start small, and then naturally combine phrases into complex sentences. The same principle works for adults learning English. Focus on thinking, feeling, and doing, rather than constructing perfect sentences. Mistakes are part of the process. Here's an important truth: mistakes help your brain grow. Every time you make an error, your brain learns a new way of thinking. Perfection is not the goal, progress is. Silence, however, is the real enemy. If you stay quiet because you fear mistakes, your brain never practices forming English thoughts. Remember, silence is worse than mistakes. Emotional boost, confidence through action. Confidence in English comes not from knowing everything, it comes from doing something consistently. Even 5 minutes of daily practice builds momentum. Each time you speak, think, or describe something in English, your brain strengthens the habit loop of thinking in English. Slowly but surely, speaking becomes easier, faster, and more natural. Reassurance for beginners: if you are worried about time, here's good news. Just 5 minutes a day is enough to start rewiring your brain. Yes, 5 minutes. It's not about long hours, it's about consistency. Every day, small steps add up to huge improvements. Curiosity spike, the mistake that stops most learners. Before we move to the next chapter, here is a question to keep in mind. Even with these methods, there is one mistake that stops most learners from thinking in English. It's subtle, but it prevents progress, even after months of practice. In the next chapter, we will uncover this trap and show you exactly how to avoid it. By now, you should feel a spark of hope. You can start thinking in English today. You don't need magic. You don't need talent. You just need simple, daily practice, a willingness to make mistakes, and the right methods. The path to fluency begins with small, consistent steps, and these 4 daily methods will guide your brain to think naturally in English. Chapter 4: Stop translating forever, the final shift. By now, you have learned why your brain translates, how fluent speakers think, and practical daily methods to train your brain in English. But there is one final step, the ultimate shift that transforms you from a hesitant translator into a confident English thinker. This is where real fluency begins. The biggest mistake most learners make is trying to be perfect before they speak. You think, I need perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, perfect words, before I can speak. But this is an illusion. Perfection is a trap. Waiting for perfect sentences keeps you silent. It keeps your brain in translation mode. And the more you wait, the stronger the habit of translating becomes. Here is the truth: you don't need to be perfect. You need to speak anyway. This is where the idea of an English identity comes in. You are not just a learner who studies English. You are a person who thinks, feels, and acts in English. You are an English thinker. And an English thinker doesn't wait for perfection. They express ideas, feelings, and observations, even if the sentences are broken. Accepting broken English is not a failure. It is a powerful tool. Every sentence you speak, every mistake you make, trains your brain to think in English naturally. The key is action, not judgment. Speak anyway. Say the words. Move forward. Your brain will learn faster than your doubts. Fluency is not about passing exams or memorizing rules. It is about emotional connection. English becomes powerful when it is tied to your feelings: joy, excitement, curiosity, surprise, fear, or love. When you use English to express what you feel, your brain starts thinking in English automatically. The translation loop disappears because your mind prioritizes meaning and emotion over rules. Consistency beats motivation every time. Motivation is temporary. It rises and falls like the weather. Consistency is permanent. Speaking 5 minutes every day, describing your actions, self-talking, or naming objects builds a new habit loop. Slowly, day by day, English becomes part of your identity. It is no longer a subject. It is your thinking language. And here comes the big moment. Fluency begins when English becomes normal, not special. When thinking in English is just as natural as thinking in your first language. When English is part of your daily life, not a subject to fear, judge, or perfect. That is when translation stops forever. Patience is key. At first, progress is invisible. You may not notice the small shifts happening in your brain. You may feel frustrated, like nothing is changing. But every time you speak, even with mistakes, your brain is rewiring. Every small habit strengthens the ability to think in English. Imagine the future. Picture yourself in a conversation. You understand quickly, respond naturally, and speak confidently. You don't pause to translate. You don't overthink grammar. Your sentences flow, your thoughts flow, and English feels alive. You are no longer studying English, you are living English in your mind. This transformation is not only practical, it is emotional. You stop fearing mistakes. You stop doubting yourself. You stop thinking English is difficult or too advanced. Confidence grows naturally from action, not perfection. The fear of speaking fades. Your mind learns to embrace English as a part of who you are. And here is the most powerful message of this chapter: you are not learning English. You are becoming an English thinker. This is the ultimate shift. When you think in English automatically, when your brain naturally forms sentences without translation, when you use English to express ideas, emotions, and experiences, you have crossed a threshold. You are no longer just a student of English. You are a person whose mind, heart, and thoughts operate in English. Fluency is no longer a distant goal. It is your identity. You have stopped translating. You have started thinking. You have begun the lifelong journey of speaking and living in English, naturally and confidently. This is your transformation moment. The shift from translation to thought. From hesitation to confidence. From learner to thinker. Once you embrace this, everything changes, not just your English, but the way you communicate, connect, and experience the world. English is no longer a subject. It is a living part of you. And this is the moment when fluency truly begins. If this video helped you understand why your brain translates in your head, if it gave you hope that thinking in English is possible, even for beginners, subscribe to this channel, because here we learn English in a real, simple, and fearless way. Every video is designed to help you train your brain, build confidence, and speak naturally. Like this video if you believe English should feel natural, not stressful, and comment below. Tell me one moment today when you will try to think in English. It could be while drinking tea, walking, or even talking to yourself. Remember, English is not just a language. It is a new way of thinking, feeling, and seeing the world. Start today, and watch how your mind slowly transforms.